So, I'm a 14-year-old girl, and before you go into the comments and say your mom is just looking out for you, please, all I ask is read the post. I recently turned 14 and my EM recently started yelling at me if I don't do my chores the very second she asks, or I tell her I don't want her reading through my stuff, which I can understand sometimes and that can be taken as her looking out for me. Here's where I have the problems with her. My computer setup is in my living room, which I always thought was annoying, but it was fine. But as of late, if I didn't get up to my chores done in under 10 minutes, she'd come over here, pull the plug, which can not only mess up the computer, but I also make some extra cash with art, so there's been multiple times where I just ask if I can finish up the commission so they don't have to wait an extra 2 to 3 hours, which I think is pretty fair. Usually I only ask this if I'm almost done, like I just have a shade the left eye or something. Otherwise, I'll save it, get my chores done, and finish it later. So one day I got fed up with it because I usually do it within 20 minutes of her asking me to do the chores, and if I asked her when I was older and got a job if I paid for my own phone and computer, if I could have it in my room and have some privacy. So EM was not happy about this. She put a pin on my computer so I can't do basic things without her permission, sign into Microsoft accounts, log into the computer, and other things you need a pin for. And then while she was doing that, she was also talking about even if I'm 18 plus and still living in her house paying rent and I pay for my own phone, that she has the right to go through my texts and such. My sister, 8, has destroyed $2,000 plus furniture we got for free when our neighbors moved. They were pretty wealthy and planned on getting new furniture, with only getting grounded for 2 days. Meanwhile, I had recently been grounded in early September for 2 months because I was telling my friends the story and still don't have my phone back after almost 6 months now. My phone is an iPhone 5S and I have some extra money I've been saving for years from commissions that I planned on using to buy a new phone, preferably a cheaper Android or Google phone. EM says that if I do decide to buy a new phone, that I will be grounded for another month and that phone would be taken away. I'm also homeschooled. I was pulled out of a public school when I was 8 and my only friend moved away in 2018. I live in a small neighborhood where all of the kids are under the age of 6. So what's worse is when she grounds me, I'm literally in my room all day, either sleeping or staring at the ceiling for months straight, and it's not like I can talk to my friends at lunch, at school, or anything. I'm a very needy and social person, so it's unbearable because my little sister wants nothing to do with me and calls me a dumbass 24/7. Shutting you off from the world and trying to monitor all of your online phone activity isn't looking out for you and isn't going to help you in the long run. Good parents teach their kids to develop solid decision-making skills, the ability when given a choice to apply critical thinking and good morals to make the right decision. Bad parents isolate their kids to the point of paralysis and dependence. Severely sheltered kids tend to develop anxieties and fears of the outside world since they rarely get a chance to interact with anything outside their bubble. That isn't in your best interest. Your mom obviously either has anxieties or issues of her own that need to get resolved. Oh my god, I am so sorry. Your mom is abusive. She's isolating you from everyone, controlling your every move. It gets to the point where there's not much else she can take from you. I'm so sorry you have to go through that, and I hope things get better soon. Keep hiding money as much as you can so you can leave her house ASAP. I wish you the best. At the very least, OP, I think this subreddit could be helpful for you because 1, nobody here is gonna say your parents are looking out for you or anything of the sort. I've only seen people supporting each other. 2, lots of people are older, have advice and success stories. They have come to terms with how their parents are, but many are still in between about it too. 3, you'll see you're not alone and your experiences aren't totally uncommon. Good luck. Next story. At my place of work, I come across entitled kids and parents 5 days a week. I work at a kids cafe. Think mini indoor playground with a coffee kiosk. 1 hour before closing, 3 kids come into play. 2 friends and the entitled kid, 8M. Because of COVID, parents have to take their drinks outside and watch through the window. We have a ball pit and the kids wanted to play dodgeball. 2 kids and I threw balls at the entitled kid because he demanded so. He decided to throw hard plastic toys at us. After telling the entitled kid not to do that 5 times, I went to the manager to explain what the entitled kid was doing and asked her to help stop him. Manager goes to the entitled kid, tells him to clean up his mess and to stop misbehaving. In no way did she raise her voice or yell. Her tone was more like a disappointed mom. We suddenly hear loud banging coming from the window. We see an entitled mom making her way inside. The manager immediately goes over and says something like, "Oh ma'am, not to worry, entitled kid is better now," and EM interrupts. "What do you think you're doing scolding my child? Making him feel bad? You have some nerve." Manager: "What? That didn't happen. Your child was misbehaving and I simply asked him not to do that and to clean up his mess." Manager goes on to explain in detail entitled kid's behavior. EM: "You have no right to comment whether you deem his behavior appropriate or not. I saw everything and it's your employee's fault my son behaved that way." Manager asked the mom to wait. I was playing with the other 2 kids when the manager approached. She asked me to tell EM what happened. I walked over to see a super thin lady decked out from head to toe in luxury clothing brands. Gold jewelry, fur coat, and black sunglasses. It was 7:30 p.m. I started, "Hi ma'am, your son..." EM: "Entitled kid, where are you? Come here." He walks over, afraid he's in trouble. EM pulls him in for a hug, kisses his forehead multiple times as she pets his head and repeatedly asks him if he's okay in the most obnoxious baby voice. Completely ignores my existence and shouts at the manager. "My son only acts out because he isn't getting enough attention. Your employee was playing with the 2 kids more than with my son. My son came alone. Those kids have each other. Your employee should have focused only on my son." I chimed in with a "you have to pay extra if you want exclusive playtime." EM ignored me and continued to shout at the manager. "I am a VIP member. My son deserves special treatment, and you don't greet me accordingly when I come here. You should greet me by my name and title. You have no manners and need to apologize or I will call corporate. No, actually, give me your employee's name. I will call first thing tomorrow morning. I will have her fired." I was still standing there in awe, speechless. The manager was apologizing profusely. EM and the entitled kid leave. I've been looking for a new job since, no luck yet. They still come back once a month, but luckily I'm not around to deal with entitled kids. There is a lot to unpack here. However, your manager was a huge letdown. She handled the situation poorly. Just because a customer is loud, obnoxious, and demanding doesn't mean you have to bow down to their wishes. Once she was involved with EM, there was no reason to involve you. You shouldn't have had to explain the situation to her. She wasn't going to listen anyways. Apologizing because the customer is irate isn't the right solution. Either you can be firm but polite in these situations. Obviously, this EM is so entitled she demands special treatment at like every single business she visits. She probably thinks her patronage means she's part owner of the place, and if anyone tells her no or acts contrary to her wishes, she has the power to get them fired or call corporate. Her kid is going to grow up to likely also be a horrible human too, and is well on his way if he's not listening while throwing dangerous items at people. I can tell you right now, I would have said to that dumbass of a parent to either shut up or get out. She and her kid are not allowed back as she is too stupid of a parent, and along with arguing with employees when she is the one in the wrong. And her kid is banned for being with her. The other kids are fine and can come back as long as they don't bring her or her kid with them. Next story. So, a little backstory. In my late teens, I had a trampoline accident that dislocated my ankle. We didn't have much money, so I walked on it dislocated for a month. A family friend, who was a chiropractor, put it back in place, but I was never completely right. Fast forward about 6 years, I later needed to have a major repair work done to my ankle due to the damage this dislocation did. It was a 3-hour outpatient surgery. I was released and sent home with 2 screws, 3 incisions, and a walking boot. I was not allowed to bear weight for 2 months. I had been living on my own, but since I wasn't able to walk or shower on my own, I moved back home with my mom and younger brother. I think he was 12 or 13. It was December when I had the surgery. I live in Minnesota. Important for later. My mom, brother, and I went to that all too familiar big box store with a Mart in its name. Now, I did kneel on a 4-wheel walker with my bad leg and scoot along with the other, but it was tiresome even for me being a 6 feet 175 pound dude, and I wouldn't be able to carry items. So if there was an electric scooter to be had, I always chose the scooter. Now, being there with snow on the ground, it was also safer. Then I wouldn't slip and fall. My walking boot was covered up by my baggy pants and a couple of really big socks, so it was hard to see I had one on. I go and get on the scooter and start following my family through the aisles. I'm abruptly stopped by an older lady with the typical Karen cut. This was early 2013 before Karens were dubbed as such. She says, "Hey, those are intended for people with disabilities and not for people to horse around." Now, in her defense, I had messed around a little. I said, "Ma'am, I am disabled at the moment." And Karen says, "No, you're not. Stop lying. I see you stupid entitled kids writing these things all the time." And I said, "Yup, I can understand that. But just because I don't look like I've got issues doesn't mean I don't. How do you know I don't have an asthmatic or have a heart problem? How do you know I don't have—" Karen interrupts, "Don't be a smart-ass kid. Get off." She proceeds to try to pull me off. I resist and hang on. Just as she was trying to pull me off, an associate and my younger brother spotted the issue. I said, "First off, I ain't no kid. I'm a 24-year-old man. And secondly, I do have a disability. Look," taking off the socks and pulling up my pant leg to reveal the boot. "I just had ankle surgery. I cannot walk." Associate walks up and asks if there was a problem. Before Karen can say anything, I tell her what happened. She also sees my walking boot. "Ma'am, I just saw you try to forcefully remove him from the scooter. How rude do you have to be to assume anything? If you have doubts, then let us know. We will investigate. Now leave him alone or I'm gonna ask you to leave my store." The Karen turns beet red and mumbles, "Sorry," and walks away. That same associate wound up doing that once more for me on another occasion. PSA: never assume a person doesn't have a disability. The storms people walk in life are not always obvious. As the old adage says, it's really easy to look at a person's front porch and think you see it all and the solutions. It's often 110% different looking out the same front porch windows from the other perspective. My wife had ankle surgery in her 40s because she broke her ankle in her teens. Had to walk on it to get home, and the only care she got was getting it set in the ER. She had trouble with it for decades, but because we had insurance, and she could get it fixed. She had one of those rolly knee carts and was an absolute menace on the thing. I wish we'd had an electric scooter. Funny enough, she had folks freak out at her about not being disabled when she was literally on the rolly cart. There are some shitty people in this world that seem to just live their lives looking for someone to shit on. Something similar happened to a friend of mine. She was diagnosed with MS at 16 years old. By 18, she had a cane and on extra bad days needed a wheelchair. A bunch of us went to the mall, and because of the sheer size of the place, we got her a powered cart. A lady threw a fit that we teenagers had taken from one of the few electric carts and demanded that we give it to her because we didn't need it, and she did. She didn't, she just had a bunch of bags and didn't want to walk with them all anymore. The argument was settled after security came over and my friend showed the security guard her cane and handicap parking placard, which she kept in her purse as she didn't drive and would use it in friends' family cars when they took her around on errands. The lady just mumbled to herself and walked away. Next story. I work in a flower shop and today I worked alone. I've met a lot of entitled people over the years, but this Karen was just bizarre. It was the after work rush, so I was very busy with a lot of customers. This one lady, nice lady, walked in and wanted some help to put together a pretty big bouquet. So I went outside and helped her pick out some flowers. When we came back in, a little line of 3 people had formed in the front of the register. I asked her if it's okay to just check them out because making the bouquet takes some time. She was kind and said yes. After they left, I started rinsing and putting the flowers together. Anyone who knew how to do this knows that for the best outcome, you need to be precise with every flower. Enter Karen. She came up and asked if we sold individual roses. I told her we did not. Then she went outside, came back with 3 different types of roses, and asked me which was the prettiest. I told her that they're all pretty and fresh, and one of them was more expensive. She plopped a package on the table and went out again. I kept talking with a nice lady about the weather and stuff. Then a man came in. He needed some flowers, and I asked if he just needed to pay or if he needed any wrapping. He just needed a bag and paid and left. Then Karen came up to me again, picked out 1 flower, and asked if I could gift wrap it. I let her pay and told her I could just after I finished with a nice lady. She huffed and just looked around. A minute later, she grabbed some brown paper from the counter and tried wrapping her single rose, but she failed. She asked me again if I could wrap it, and I told her yeah after I was done with the person ahead of her. At this point, she told me she was in a hurry. I just kept doing my job as fast as I could. Then suddenly, she sighs and walks behind the counter, picks up old plastic wrappers from flowers on the floor, and attempts to wrap her single rose. Now I'm wrapping a nice lady's flowers, and Karen sees the colored paper I'm using and asks if she could have it. I give it to her just to shut her, all the while being as nice as I can, but getting pretty fed up with the lady who has been nothing but rude. As I'm cutting the ribbon, she wants that too, and I give in once more and she leaves. But as I'm closing, she comes back to pick up the rest of the pack of roses because she counts the possibility of bringing those earlier. I wrap them, put them in a bag, thinking that's that. Unfortunately, no. She tells me that I could have been more gracious earlier and that she was in a hurry and I should accommodate that. I told her I was doing my job and the nice lady had already been patient and kind to other people before she arrived, and the nice lady did not have all the time in the world either. Then she complained about how there should have been more people working and the service wasn't so good and so on. She even said she'll come back and complain to my boss. After yelling at me for a while, she left. What I don't understand about this whole thing is how the heck is it my problem that she didn't manage her time properly, and why is her time so much more important than nice lady's time? In the end, I would have been a lot more accommodating if she'd just been nice and understanding during this thing. Maybe a nice lady would have told her to go ahead if she asked, but nope, she was important and we mere servants. Sorry it was long, I'm just very mad and needed to rant.